The flames took everything I owned in 3 hours. When I showed up at my daughter's doorstep with nothing but ash in my hair, she looked at my muddy boots and said, "Sorry, Mom, we can't have you tracking dirt on the Italian marble." But when the boy I raised, the one who wasn't even my blood, landed his private helicopter in her front yard, everything changed in an instant. If this story touches your heart, drop a comment below and let me know what city you're reading from. I want to see how far this piece of my life can travel across this country. My name is Margaret, and I'm 63 years old. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that at this age I'd be standing in the pouring rain in front of my own daughter's house in Atlanta, Georgia, begging for a place to sleep. But life doesn't send you a text message asking if you're ready for what's coming. It just hits you square in the chest and leaves you gasping for air. The fire started at 2:47 in the morning. I woke up choking in smoke, my lungs burning like someone had poured gasoline down my throat. When I stumbled into the hallway of my farmhouse outside Macon, I saw it. Orange flames crawling up the walls of my kitchen, devouring the room where I'd made Sunday breakfast for my kids for 40 years. My farm, my home, everything I'd built with my own 2 hands over 4 decades. It was all disappearing right in front of my eyes. By the time the volunteer fire department made it out from town, there wasn't much left worth saving. The barn where I kept my equipment was completely gone. The kitchen was a charred skeleton. The bedrooms were waterlogged and ruined from the hoses. The fire marshal said it was faulty wiring in the main barn. One bad connection, and 40 years of my life went up in smoke before the sun even thought about rising. I didn't have enough insurance coverage. The past few years had been brutal financially, and to keep the lights on and the animals fed, I'd cut back on the policy, telling myself I'd bump it back up when things got better. They never did. The insurance company cut me a check that wouldn't even cover rebuilding the barn, much less the house. So there I stood, in the ashes of everything I'd ever worked for, wearing smoke-stained clothes and borrowed shoes from a neighbor, and I realized I had absolutely nowhere to go. No savings account that could fix this mess. No husband, he'd been gone for 20 years. No backup plan. Just one desperate thought running through my mind. I have to go to Patricia, my daughter, my only biological child, the baby girl I carried for 9 months, the little girl whose hair I'd braided every morning before school, the young woman I'd watched walk down the aisle in a wedding dress that cost more than my first tractor. Surely, if anyone would give me a couch to sleep on for a few nights, it would be her. Patricia lived in one of those gated communities in Buckhead, where the grass looks like it's been trimmed with scissors and every house looks like it belongs in a magazine spread. Her house was a massive brick mansion with a circular driveway, perfectly manicured hedges, and a 3-tiered fountain out front that probably cost more than I made in 5 years of farming. The whole thing had been paid for by her husband, Marcus Jr., no relation to the boy I'd raised, just an unfortunate coincidence in names. He was a corporate lawyer who'd always treated me like I was something he'd scraped off the bottom of his Johnston and Murphy loafers. I stood at that front door, clutching my old purse and trying not to think about how I probably smelled like smoke and defeat. The rain had started coming down hard, soaking through my borrowed jacket, but I just stood there and rang the doorbell. The door swung open, and there he was, Marcus Jr., in an expensive charcoal suit, silk tie perfectly knotted, wearing that thin smile that never quite reached his eyes, the smile of a man who'd been practicing fake sincerity in the mirror since law school. "Margaret," he said, not moving an inch to let me inside. "What are you doing here?" "There was a fire," I managed to say, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "At the farm. in Macon. I lost the house, lost everything. I need a place to stay for a few days, just until I can figure out. Here? He actually laughed, not a chuckle, a real laugh, sharp and cruel. In this house? Are you out of your mind? She's my daughter, I said, feeling the cold rain pressing harder against my back. I just need. Patricia, he shouted over his shoulder, still blocking the doorway like a bouncer at a club. Your mother is here. My daughter appeared behind him, barefoot on the white marble floor, wearing a cream-colored designer dress that probably cost what I used to make in 3 months of farming. Her hair was salon perfect, her makeup was flawless, but her expression when she looked at me, that was something else entirely. She looked me up and down slowly, from my muddy shoes to my smoke-stained shirt, like I was a homeless person who'd wandered in off Peachtree Street asking for change. Mama, what happened to you? You look terrible. I told her everything about waking up to smoke, about watching 40 years of my life burn to the ground, about the insurance that wouldn't cover it, about having nowhere else to go. I stood there waiting, just waiting for one moment for my daughter to step forward, to wrap her arms around me, to say, "Come inside, Mama, you're safe now." Instead, she glanced back at Marcus Jr. He gave her a tiny nod, like they'd already discussed this possibility and agreed on their answer. "You can't stay here, Mama," Patricia said, crossing her arms over her chest. "This house it's very elegant. The neighbors would what?" I asked, feeling something crack deep inside my chest. Marcus Jr. stepped fully into the doorway, his body language making it crystal clear that I wasn't getting past him. "Look, Margaret," he said, in that fake patient voice lawyers use when they're talking to people they consider beneath them. "We don't mean to be harsh, but this is Buckhead. This is an exclusive neighborhood. We can't have homeless people hanging around the property. What would the neighbors think? What would the people from the country club say?" "I'm your wife's mother," I said, my voice starting to shake. "I'm not some." "And you're a farmer who lost her little farm. You'll track mud all over my Italian marble. You'll mess up the feng shui Patricia spent 6 months getting right. I don't make accommodations for homeless people in my house, Margaret. That's just not how we do things." The words hit me like physical blows, not on my skin, deeper than that, in the places that take years to heal. I turned to Patricia, silently begging her to say something, anything, to tell her husband he was wrong, to stand up for me, to remember that I was the woman who'd sat up with her all night when she had the flu, who'd worked double shifts to pay for her college application fees, who had given her everything I had. She said nothing. She just stood there, looking at the floor. "Please," I whispered, feeling the rain and my own tears mixing together on my face. "I just need a place to sleep, just for a little while. Go to a shelter, or look into some kind of government assistance program for people like you." "People like me?" I repeated. "Poor people," he said, not even blinking. "Failures." Then he shut the door in my face. For a long moment, I just stood there staring at that white door with its fancy brass knocker. The rain was coming down in sheets now, soaking through my clothes until I could feel the water running down my spine. My hands were shaking, my teeth were chattering, but none of that physical discomfort came close to the pain of knowing that my own daughter had watched that door close and hadn't done a single thing to stop it. I walked slowly down that perfect stone driveway, the manicured lawn, the 3-tiered fountain, the whole facade of my daughter's perfect life. It all blurred together as the tears kept coming. I was cold. I was exhausted. I was more humiliated than I had ever been in my entire life. I had no house, no money, no plan whatsoever. That's when I remembered the business card. I'd been carrying it in my wallet for years, folded and refolded, so many times the edges were soft and the ink was starting to fade. My fingers were stiff and clumsy from the cold as I dug it out and tried to smooth it against my palm. Terrence Washington, CEO, Washington Development Corporation. Terrence. My Terrence. The boy who'd shown up at my farm when he was 8 years old, carrying a garbage bag full of his belongings and fear in his eyes. He'd come through the foster care system as part of a rural placement program. Just for a few weeks, the social worker had promised me. Those few weeks turned into 10 years. I raised him like he was my own flesh and blood. I taught him how to feed the chickens, how to sort the laundry, how to read beyond what they taught him in that underfunded rural school, how to plant crops and calculate profit margins on the back of feed store receipts. I watched him transform from a silent, wounded little boy into a young man whose mind worked faster than any piece of farm equipment I ever owned. And Patricia? Patricia had hated him from the very first day. With my heart pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. I pulled out my old phone, screen cracked, case held together with tape. But it still worked. My thumb hovered over the numbers. What if he doesn't remember me? What if this number doesn't work anymore? What if he's too busy, too important, too far removed from the life we used to share? What if I'm about to embarrass myself one more time today? I dialed anyway. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Hello? The voice was deeper now, more confident, polished by education and success. But it only took that one word for me to know. Terrence, I whispered, suddenly feeling like the biggest fool in Georgia for calling after all these years. It's Margaret Hayes. There was silence on the line. But it wasn't empty silence. It was full of something heavy and profound. Then I heard it. The catch in his breath, like he'd just been punched in the chest. Mama Margaret? The way he said Mama broke something wide open inside me. Terrence, I need help. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't be calling. I know it's been so long, but Where are you? He cut in, his voice suddenly sharp and focused. I'm in Atlanta, in Buckhead, standing outside Patricia's house in the rain. I had a fire. I lost everything, and Don't move, he said. I'm coming to get you right now. But, Terrence, you don't have to. Mama Margaret, he said, and his voice cracked just slightly. I said don't move. I'm coming. The line went dead. I made my way to the bus stop on the corner and stood under its pathetic little shelter, watching the rain hammer the pavement. My mind started drifting backward, whether I wanted it to or not, pulling me into memories I'd tucked away in the corners of my heart. It was the fall of 1995. I was 36 years old, a widow for 2 years after my husband died in a farming accident. Tractor rolled over him in the south field. I was left with a struggling farm outside Macon, a mountain of debt that seemed to grow every month, and an 11-year-old daughter who was spending more and more time slamming doors and telling me she hated her life. The social worker's voice on the phone had been professional but kind. Mrs. Hayes, we have a boy in the system, Terrence Washington. He's 8 years old. We're looking for a temporary placement, just for a few weeks until we can find him a permanent family. Would you be willing to take him in? When Terrence arrived, he looked exactly like what he was, a kid who'd been hurt too many times and didn't trust anyone anymore. big brown eyes that had seen too much, too skinny for his age, scars on his arms that I noticed but didn't ask about because the social worker's look told me everything I needed to know. He stood in my kitchen like a rabbit ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. He doesn't talk much, the social worker had warned me. He has nightmares. He's been through 4 placements in 2 years. Nobody seems to be able to handle him. What she didn't say, but what I could see clear as day, was that this boy also had a brilliant mind trapped inside all that trauma, and a heart so hungry for love, it physically hurt to look at him. That first night, he lay in the spare bedroom stiff as a board, gripping the blanket like it was a shield, like he expected me to come in at any moment and tell him to pack his trash bag and get out. Instead, I sat on the edge of his bed, opened up an old copy of Where the Red Fern Grows, and started reading out loud. He didn't say a word, but I could see the tears sliding down the side of his face, soaking into the pillow. Patricia hated him instantly and completely. "Why does he have to be here?" she'd ask me over and over again, her voice getting sharper each time. "He's weird. He doesn't talk. He's not part of our family." "It's just temporary, baby. We're just helping him out for a little while until they find him a permanent home." But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The social worker kept calling with the same story. "We still haven't found a family for him. He's difficult to place. Most families want younger children or girls. Could you possibly keep him a little bit longer?" I could. I did. And somewhere along the way, he stopped being the foster kid from the system and became my son. He'd wake up at 5 in the morning to help me feed the animals without being asked. He learned to drive the tractor before he turned 10, feet barely reaching the pedals, but he figured it out. By the time he was 9, he was helping me with the farm accounts, adding up columns of numbers faster than I could with a calculator. When he was 10, he redesigned our whole irrigation system and cut our water bill by 1/3. "That boy's going places," my neighbor Mr. Johnson would say, shaking his head in amazement. "Mark my words, Margaret, that child is going to be somebody important one day." I believed him. But Patricia saw it differently. She saw a competitor for my attention. "Why does he get to help you with the books and I don't?" she'd yell when she'd walk into the kitchen and find Terrence and I bent over the ledgers together. "Because you'd rather be at the mall with your friends, baby," I'd answer as gently as I could. "You're welcome to sit down and help anytime you want." "He's stealing me from you," she'd scream before slamming her bedroom door so hard that the pictures rattled on the walls. I tried so hard to split myself down the middle, to be 2 different mothers for 2 different kids, but Terrence had been through so much pain in his short life that he needed more from me, and he soaked up every bit of love and attention like he'd been dying of thirst in a desert. When he was 12, I made it official, and adopted him legally. The day we signed those papers at the courthouse in Macon, we took a picture, him in a button-up shirt that was slightly too big, borrowed from Mr. Johnson's grandson, me with my arm around his shoulders, both of us grinning like we'd won the lottery. "He's not my brother," Patricia announced at the small celebration I'd put together at the house. "He's never going to be my brother." Terrence acted like it didn't bother him, but later that night, I found him out in the barn, his face buried in his hands, shoulders shaking. "Do you think I should leave?" he asked quietly. "Patricia would be happier if I wasn't here." "You are not going anywhere," I told him, pulling him into a tight hug. "This is your home. You are my son just as much as she is my daughter, Terrence. Don't you ever forget that." Patricia never forgave me for saying those words. Terrence excelled in school, honor roll every semester, science fair winner 3 years running, teachers calling me in for conferences just to tell me, "Mrs. Hayes, this boy has a real future." You need to start thinking about colleges. Good colleges. Patricia barely scraped by academically. She was too busy worrying about her hair or her clothes, which boys liked her, and why her life in rural Georgia was so boring and basic. When Terrence won a full academic scholarship to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Patricia exploded. "Of course he gets everything," she screamed at me. "The perfect son who wasn't even really your son to begin with. What about me? What about my real daughter?" "Patricia, please," I said, feeling like I was talking to a stranger. "You're both my real children." "Liar," she spat back, her eyes cold in a way I'd never seen before. "You've always loved him more than me. I wish he'd never come to this house. I wish he'd stayed in whatever foster home he came from." Terrence heard every word from the staircase. That night, he sat at the kitchen table, turning his acceptance letter over and over in his hands. "Maybe it's better if I don't come back after college. Maybe if I stay away, Patricia will be happier. Maybe you two can have a better relationship." "Don't you dare say that," I told him, my voice fierce. "This will always be your home, Terrence, always." But the damage was done. The seed had been planted. When he left for Morehouse, we talked on the phone regularly at first, every Sunday evening like clockwork, but slowly, gradually, the calls got shorter, less frequent. He started taking summer internships in other cities instead of coming home. He was moving into a world that didn't look anything like the farm in Macon, and I could feel him slipping further and further away. Meanwhile, Patricia met Marcus, Jr. He was 10 years older, had money, had connections, drove a BMW, and wore suits that cost more than I made in a month. They got married when she was barely 20, and from that day forward, she treated the farm and me like embarrassing relics from a past she wanted to forget. "You work too hard, Margaret," Marcus Jr. would say when they'd visit, walking around the property with his hands in his pockets like he was touring a zoo. "You should sell this place. Buy yourself a little condo somewhere. Live easy for once in your life." But I loved my farm. It was my whole story written in red Georgia clay and sweat and determination. Terrence graduated from Morehouse with honors and immediately got recruited by a major real estate development firm in Charlotte. He climbed fast, faster than anyone expected. His phone calls turned into occasional emails. His emails turned into text messages on holidays. He sent money, quietly paying off bills I never told him about, somehow always knowing when I was struggling. I could feel the distance growing between us, but I also knew he'd never completely forgotten where he came from. The last time I saw him was 8 years ago, at my sister's funeral in Savannah. He showed up in a car that looked like it belonged to a movie star, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my truck. But when he wrapped his arms around me and asked me, "How are you doing, Mama Margaret?" in that soft voice, he was still my boy. "I'm fine, baby," I'd lied, because the farm was already in trouble, and I didn't want to be one more burden on his shoulders. Patricia barely acknowledged him that day. She treated him like he was a distant acquaintance, not the boy who'd shared his childhood home for 10 years. Now, years later, I stood shivering at that bus stop in Buckhead as the sound of helicopter blades started cutting through the sky. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe hypothermia was setting in and I was hallucinating. But the sound got louder and louder. The wind picked up, whipping the rain sideways. Lights appeared in the neighbors' windows. People started coming out onto their perfect porches with their phones already out recording. A sleek, black helicopter descended from the gray Atlanta sky like something from another world entirely. The rotor wash sent waves across the puddles in the street and scattered leaves everywhere. I could see gold lettering on the side, though I couldn't make out what it said. It looked expensive, powerful, important. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribcage. It can't be. It just can't be. The helicopter touched down on the empty lot across from Patricia's house, the lot where some other rich family was planning to build another mansion. The door opened, and a man stepped out. For a second, I didn't recognize him. He was tall, taller than I remembered, confident in a way that seemed to irradiate from every movement. Perfectly tailored navy suit, hair cut and styled like he just stepped out of GQ magazine, Designer sunglasses that probably cost more than I used to make in 6 months of selling produce at the farmer's market. Then he took off the sunglasses. Terrence stepped forward again, his voice returning to that cold, businesslike tone. "Let me make this very clear," he said. "I have all the documentation ready to file with both the district attorney's office and the IRS. Tax evasion, fraud, theft by deception, these aren't minor charges." "Criminal charges?" Marcus Jr. said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Terrence confirmed. "You stole from a vulnerable elderly woman, your own mother-in-law. Prosecutors love cases like this. Juries love cases like this. You'd be looking at significant prison time." He pulled out a thick legal document from his briefcase. "Or," he continued, "you can sign these papers. They transfer full ownership of this house to Margaret Washington. That's Mama Margaret's new legal name, by the way. She's taking my name. She doesn't owe the people who betrayed her the privilege of carrying theirs." I watched those words hit Patricia like a slap. Her face went white. You're changing your name?" she whispered. "I already changed it. Margaret Washington. It's official as of 3 days ago." Terrence handled all the paperwork. Patricia looked like I'd just told her someone had died. But you're a Hayes. You've always been Margaret Hayes." "I was Margaret Hayes. The woman who got walked over, who got taken advantage of, who got her door slammed in her face in the rain. That woman doesn't exist anymore." Terrence placed the legal documents on the coffee table. "You have 48 hours, he repeated. "Sign these papers and transfer the house to my mother, plus agree to a payment plan for the remaining balance, or I file criminal charges Monday morning at 9 a.m. Your choice." "A payment plan?" Marcus Jr. asked desperately. "How much?" "The remaining $150,000, paid in monthly installments of $5,000 for 30 months. No interest, which is generous considering you should be paying her back with interest for what you stole." $5,000 a month? Marcus Jr.'s voice cracked. "We can't afford that." "Then you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from my mother," Terrence said coldly. "You stole an average of over $2,000 a month from her for 9 years. Now you'll pay back $5,000 a month for less than 3 years. Seems fair to me." He stood up, straightening his shirt. "We'll be back in exactly 48 hours. That's Sunday at 4 p.m. Have your decision ready. And I'd suggest you consult with a lawyer, Marcus Jr., though I doubt you'll find one who will tell you anything different than what I'm telling you now. You're caught. The only question is whether you want to handle this civilly or criminally." We turned to leave. Patricia scrambled to her feet, grabbing my arm. "Mama," she cried, her whole body shaking. "Please, I'm your daughter, your only daughter. You can't do this to me." I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the little girl I'd rocked to sleep when she had nightmares. I saw the teenager I'd stayed up late helping with homework. I saw the young woman whose wedding I scraped together money to help pay for. And I also saw the woman who closed the door in my face when I had nowhere else to go. "No," I said quietly, pulling my arm free. "No, you're the person who chose a luxury lifestyle over your own mother's well-being. You're the stranger who called me filthy when I'd just lost everything. My son is the one who came for me in a helicopter when I called. My son is the one standing beside me right now. But he's not even really your—" Patricia started, but caught herself. But it was too late. "Not even really my what?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Not even really my son? Is that what you were going to say?" Patricia's face crumpled. "That's what I thought. You still don't understand that family isn't about blood. It's about love. It's about loyalty. It's about showing up when someone needs you. Terrence has been more of a child to me than you've been in 20 years. "This isn't over," Marcus Jr. called after us as we walked to the door. Terrence turned around one final time. "Oh, it's over," he said calmly. "You just haven't accepted it yet. See you Sunday at 4 p.m. We walked out into the Atlanta afternoon. The rain had stopped. The sun was trying to break through the clouds. "How do you feel?" Terrence asked as we got into his car. "Tired," I admitted, "but also free. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel free." He smiled and started the engine. "Good," he said. "That's exactly how you should feel." 2 days later, at exactly 4 p.m. on Sunday, we pulled up to Patricia's house again. This time there was no hesitation, no drama, just a door opening to reveal two people who looked like they'd aged 10 years in 48 hours. They'd consulted with 3 different lawyers, according to what Marcus Jr. told us. All 3 had told them the same thing: sign the papers, make the payments, and pray that Margaret Washington was merciful enough not to press criminal charges anyway. We sat at their dining room table, the same table where Patricia probably served expensive dinners to her society friends, never mentioning that she had a mother living in a falling-apart farmhouse 2 hours away in Macon. "We'll sign," Marcus Jr. said, his voice hollow. "We'll sign the house over and agree to the payment plan." "Smart choice," Terrence said, sliding the documents across the table. Patricia's hand shook as she signed her name. Then Marcus Jr. signed. Then they both initialed about 30 different pages while Terrence watched like a hawk, making sure every signature was in the right place. "There's one more thing," Terrence said when they were done. "What?" Marcus Jr. asked wearily. "You're going to write a letter," Terrence said. "Both of you. A detailed letter explaining exactly what you did, how you stole from my mother, and how much you stole. You're going to acknowledge your theft in writing." "Why?" Patricia asked. "Insurance," Terrence said simply. "In case you decide to get creative later and claim you were coerced or that these documents aren't valid. I want your confession in your own handwriting." They wrote the letters. It took them almost an hour. Patricia cried through most of it. Marcus Jr.'s hand shook so badly his handwriting was barely legible. When it was done, Terrence collected everything, put it in his briefcase, and stood up. "You have 30 days to vacate the premises," he said. "The house belongs to my mother now." 30 days? Patricia gasped. "Where are we supposed to go?" "I don't know," I said, standing beside Terrence. "Maybe you could try calling your daughter for help?" "Oh, wait, you don't have a daughter who would do that for you, do you?" The look on Patricia's face would have broken my heart 6 months ago. Now it just made me sad for the relationship we could have had if she'd chosen differently. "One more thing," I said. "The furniture stays. All of it. You bought most of it with my money anyway. Consider it part of your repayment." "But that's everything we own," Marcus Jr. protested. "No," Terrence corrected him. "That's everything you bought with money you stole. There's a difference." We walked out for the last time. As we got into the car, I heard Patricia calling after me. "Mama, please, someday you'll forgive me. I know you will." I turned around one final time. "There's nothing to forgive," I called back, "because forgiveness requires caring. And I don't care anymore, Patricia. I just don't care." Those were the last words I ever spoke to her. 6 months later. I'm sitting in the garden of what used to be Patricia's house, my house now. The 3-tier fountain is gone. In its place, I planted rose bushes and a small vegetable garden. Tomatoes, green beans, squash, the same things I used to grow in Macon. The backyard has peach trees now, young saplings that will take years to produce fruit, but I've got time. Patricia and Marcus Jr. moved to a small apartment in Decatur. Marcus Jr. lost his partnership at his law firm once word got around about the fraud investigation. Even though I ultimately decided not to press criminal charges, the legal community in Atlanta is small, and gossip travels fast. Last I heard, he's working as a contract lawyer for a document review company, making about a quarter of what he used to make. Patricia got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. She had to, because Marcus Jr.'s income alone couldn't cover their expenses. They're making their monthly payments to me, $5,000 on the first of every month, like clockwork. I think the shame of writing that check motivates them more than any threat of legal action ever could. They tried to reach out a few times in the first couple months. Letters, emails, text messages. Patricia left a voicemail on my birthday, crying and saying she loved me. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. I don't hate her. I just don't have any space in my life for her anymore. Every Friday evening, I hear the sound of Terrence's car in the driveway. He pulls up in whatever vehicle he's driving that week, sometimes the Mercedes, sometimes the Range Rover, sometimes just a regular Toyota, because he says he likes to keep it real sometimes. And he comes in with fresh flowers and whatever groceries he thinks I might need. "Hey, Mama," he says, kissing my cheek. "How was your week?" We cook dinner together in the massive kitchen that used to be Patricia's pride and joy. Now it's filled with the smell of collard greens and cornbread instead of whatever fancy catered food she used to serve at her parties. "Week was good," I tell him, stirring a pot of beans. "Mrs. Johnson from next door came over. Turns out she's been wanting to meet me ever since I moved in. She's nice. We had coffee." "Making friends with the neighbors," Terrence says, grinning. "I love it." "She asked if I was Patricia's mother." I said, "No, I'm Terrence Washington's mother." "She knew exactly who you were." He laughs. "Did she ask you to invest in her son's startup company? Because that happens a lot." "She did mention her son needs business advice," I admit, and we both laugh. After dinner, we sit in the living room. I've redecorated completely, replacing all Patricia's cold, modern furniture with comfortable pieces that actually invite you to sit down and stay a while. There are pictures on the walls now. Pictures of Terrence and me from when he was young, pictures of the farm in Macon, pictures from his college graduation. There's not a single picture of Patricia anywhere in the house. "I have some news," Terrence says, and there's something in his voice that makes me look up. "What kind of news?" He pulls out his phone and turns it toward me. On the screen is a photo of a beautiful black woman with kind eyes and a bright smile, her hand extended to show off a simple but elegant engagement ring. "Terrence," I gasp, grabbing the phone. "Is this—" He says, "Her name is Nicole. She's a civil rights attorney. We met at a charity gala 8 months ago. She's brilliant, Mama. She's funny, she's kind, and she already loves you even though she hasn't met you yet, just from the stories I've told her." "You're getting married," I whisper, tears filling my eyes. "I am," he says, "and I need to ask you something important. Anything." "Will you help us plan the wedding?" he asks. "Nicole specifically said she wants you involved in every decision. She said any woman who raised a man as good as me must be pretty amazing herself." I'm crying now, happy tears streaming down my face. "I would be honored, but are you sure Nicole wants her future mother-in-law all up in her wedding plans?" He laughs. "Mama, she insisted. She said, and I quote, 'I'm not just marrying Terrence. I'm marrying into a family, and that means building a relationship with the woman who made him who he is. I like her already.'" "There's something else," Terrence adds, and now he looks a little nervous. "Nicole and I have been talking about the future, about kids." My heart skips a beat. "And we'd like to raise them here, in Atlanta, near you. We want them to grow up knowing their grandmother. We want them to understand from day one that family is about love and choice and loyalty, not just biology." "You want them to know me?" I ask, my voice breaking. "Mama," he says, taking my hands, "we want them to have you the same way I had you. We want them to learn how to garden from you. We want them to hear stories about the farm. We want them to understand what real strength and real love look like. And that means having you as present in their lives as possible." "Grandmother," I whisper, testing out the word. "I'm going to be a grandmother." "You're going to be the best grandmother in the world," he says, pulling me into a hug. That night, after Terrence leaves, I walk through my house, this house that used to represent everything I'd lost, everything Patricia had chosen over me. Now it represents something completely different. Justice, yes, but also new beginnings, second chances, the family you choose. I go into what used to be Patricia's bedroom, my bedroom now. I've redecorated it completely, painted the walls a warm yellow, replaced her cold modern furniture with pieces that feel like home. On the dresser is a framed photo from the day the house transfer became official. Terrence and I standing in the front yard, his arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling like we'd just won the lottery. In a way, we had. There's a box in my closet. Inside are photos of Patricia from when she was young, me holding her as a baby, her first day of school, her high school graduation, her wedding day. I keep them, not because I miss her or long for what we used to have, but because they're part of my story. They're evidence of who I was and how far I've traveled. I don't need to look at them every day. I don't need to display them on my walls. I just need to know they exist. Proof that I tried, that I loved, that I showed up even when it wasn't convenient. And proof that when it was my turn to need someone, she wasn't there. But Terrence was. Before bed, I call Nicole. Terrence gave me her number weeks ago, but I've been nervous about reaching out, not wanting to seem like an overbearing future mother-in-law. She answers on the second ring. "Mrs. Washington?" she says warmly. "I was hoping you'd call. Please call me Margaret, or Mama Margaret, if you're comfortable with that." "Mama Margaret," she repeats, and I can hear the smile in her voice. I like that. "Terrence told me you wanted to talk about the wedding?" "I do, but first I wanted to ask you something. Would you be comfortable with having the ceremony here, at my house? I've been working on the garden, and by next spring it should be absolutely beautiful. We could set up chairs in the backyard, under the peach trees." There's a pause on the line. I hold my breath, worried I've overstepped. "Mama Margaret," Nicole says, and I can hear that she's crying. "Would you really do that for us?" "Nicole," I say, warmth spreading through my chest. "There's nothing in this world that would make me happier." "Then yes," she says. "Yes, absolutely yes. That sounds perfect." We talk for another hour, about flowers, about catering, about music, about her family, her parents who live in Chicago, her two sisters, her grandmother who she says reminds her of me, about how nervous she is to meet me in person next month, how much Terrence talks about me, how she already feels like she knows me from his stories. He says you're the strongest woman he's ever known. He says you taught him what real love looks like. I say, he taught me just as much. He showed me that the family we choose can be stronger than the family we're born into. I believe that too, she says softly. That's why I can't wait to choose you as my family. After we hang up, I sit in my quiet house and let the peace wash over me. Outside, the streetlights of Buckhead are coming on. Inside, everything is warm and safe and mine. My phone buzzes. A text from Terrence. "Nicole just called me crying happy tears. Thank you for making her feel so welcome. I love you, Mama." I text back, "I love you too, son. See you Friday." 3 months later. The wedding is in 1 week, and my garden is more beautiful than I ever imagined it could be. The peach trees are blooming, pale pink flowers that smell like spring and promise. The roses are in full color, red, pink, yellow, white. I've planted hydrangeas along the fence line, and they're heavy with blue and purple blooms. Nicole's family arrived from Chicago yesterday. Her mother, Diane, is a warm, welcoming woman who hugged me like we'd known each other for years. Her father, Robert, is quiet but kind, with eyes that light up when he talks about his daughters. Her two sisters, Janelle and Simone, have been helping me with the final decorations, stringing white lights through the trees and setting up tables. "This is absolutely beautiful, Mama Margaret," Diane says, standing in the garden with a cup of coffee. "You've created something magical here." "Thank you," I say. "I wanted it to be special for them." "It is," she assures me. "And I hope you know, you're not just gaining Nicole, you're gaining all of us. We're family now." That word, family, doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't carry weight or obligation or fear. It just feels warm. The day before the wedding, Patricia shows up. I'm in the garden, trimming roses, when I hear the doorbell. When I open it, she's standing there, looking older than she should at her age. Thinner, tired. She's wearing a simple dress, nothing designer, her hair pulled back in a plain ponytail. "Mama," she says, quietly. "Patricia," I respond, not unkindly, but not warmly either. I heard about the wedding through the grapevine. I know I'm not invited. I know I don't have any right to be here, but I wanted to bring you something." She holds out a small wrapped package. "What is it?" I ask, not taking it yet. "A wedding gift," she says, "for Terrence and his bride. I know it doesn't make up for anything. I know it doesn't change what I did, but I needed you to know that I'm happy for him, and I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry, Mama." I look at her, really look at her. I see genuine remorse in her eyes. I see regret. I see a woman who's learned too late what she lost. I take the package. "Thank you," I say. "I'll make sure they get it." "Can I ask you something?" she says, her voice small. "What? Do you think—" She starts, then stops, takes a breath. "Do you think there will ever be a time when we can talk again? When maybe we could try to—" She doesn't finish the sentence. I think about it, really think about it, and I realize that the anger is gone. The hurt is gone. What's left is just distance. The kind of distance that comes when two people have walked too far down different paths to easily find their way back to each other. "I don't know, Patricia," I say, honestly. "Maybe someday, but not today. Not yet. I need you to understand that I've built a new life, a good life, a life where people treat me with respect and love, and I'm not willing to risk that peace for anyone, not even you." She nods, tears streaming down her face. "I understand," she whispers. I just want you to know that I love you. I always have. I just didn't know how to show it the right way. I know you loved me, but love without respect is just words, Patricia. And words aren't enough anymore." She turns to leave, then stops and looks back. "He's lucky to have you, Terrence. He's lucky you chose him." "No," I correct her gently. "I'm lucky he chose me back." She walks away, and I watch her get into a modest sedan, not the Range Rover she used to drive, and drive away. I feel sad, but not guilty. Regretful of what could have been, but not responsible for fixing it. I go back to my roses. The wedding day is perfect. Clear blue sky, temperature in the mid-70s, a gentle breeze that makes the flowers dance. Chairs are set up in rows in the garden, white fabric draped over them, ribbons tied to the ends. A simple wooden arbor stands at the front, covered in climbing roses and white fabric. Terrence stands at that arbor in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, looking more handsome and more nervous than I've ever seen him. His best man, his business partner, Marcus, no relation, thankfully, stands beside him, grinning. The music starts, a string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon, and Nicole appears at the back of the garden on her father's arm. She's stunning in a simple ivory dress, her hair in natural curls, a bouquet of roses and hydrangeas in her hands. But what makes her truly beautiful is her smile, the smile of a woman who knows exactly who she's marrying and couldn't be happier about it. As she walks down the aisle, she catches my eye and winks at me. I blow a kiss back. When she reaches Terrence, I watch my son's face transform. pure joy, pure love, pure certainty that this is exactly where he's supposed to be. The ceremony is beautiful. They exchange vows they wrote themselves. Terrence promises to love her, respect her, support her dreams, and always remember where he came from. Nicole promises to be his partner, his equal, his best friend, and to honor the woman who raised him by loving him with the same fierce devotion. When the minister says, "You may kiss your bride," and Terrence pulls Nicole close, the whole garden erupts in applause. At the reception, Terrence makes a speech. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," he says, his arm around Nicole's waist. "This is the happiest day of my life, but it wouldn't be possible without one person in particular." He looks directly at me. "Mama Margaret," he says, his voice thick with emotion, "when I was 8 years old, you opened your door to a scared, hurt little boy who didn't believe anyone could love him. You proved him wrong. You taught me what family really means. You showed me that biology doesn't matter. What matters is showing up day after day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." He pauses, wiping his eyes. He continues, "You saved my life, and now because you taught me what love looks like, I get to spend the rest of my life with this incredible woman standing beside me. So thank you for everything. I love you." The entire garden is crying now, including me. "I love you too, son," I call out, not caring that everyone can hear. Nicole steps forward and takes the microphone. "I want to say something too," she says. "Mama Margaret, I'm so grateful to be joining this family. Terrence tells me that family is something you choose, and today I'm choosing you. I'm choosing to honor the woman who raised this incredible man, and I'm making you a promise, right here, right now. Any children we have will know their grandmother. They'll know your story. They'll know that the strongest people aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up." She walks over to me and places her bouquet in my hands. "Thank you for raising the love of my life," she whispers, hugging me tight. "Thank you for making him ready to love me." I hold her, this woman I've only known for a few months, but who already feels like a daughter. "Thank you for loving him," I whisper back. "Thank you for seeing his heart." The party goes late into the evening. There's dancing, laughter, toasts. Diane and I sit together at a table, watching our children dance under the string lights, and she takes my hand. "We did good," she says simply. "We did," I agree. At the end of the night, as guests are leaving and the string lights are twinkling in the darkness, Terrence finds me sitting in the garden looking up at the stars. "Tired?" he asks, sitting down beside me. "Happy tired," I say. "The best kind." "Thank you for today," he says. "For all of this. For everything." "You don't have to thank me," I tell him. "You gave me just as much as I gave you, Terrence. Maybe more." "How do you figure?" "I showed you that I was worth coming back for. That day you landed in that helicopter, you could have sent money, sent someone else, made an excuse, but you came. You showed up. You reminded me that I mattered. You've always mattered," he says fiercely. "I know that now, thanks to you." We sit in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the cleanup crew working quietly in the background. "Patricia came by yesterday," I tell him. He tenses. "What did she want?" "To apologize, to bring a wedding gift, to ask if maybe someday we could try again." "What did you say?" "I said, maybe someday," I answer, honestly. "But not now, not yet. I told her I've built a good life and I'm not willing to risk it." "Good," he says firmly. "You don't owe her anything, Mama. I know that, but I also don't hate her anymore. I just don't need her." "That's growth," he observes. "It is," I agree. Nicole comes out to find us, now changed into jeans and a t-shirt, her wedding dress safely packed away. "Are you two having a moment?" she asks, smiling. "Always room for one more," I say, patting the bench beside me. She sits down, and we three sit together in my garden, my son, my new daughter, and me. And I realize this is what happiness feels like. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of people who choose you, who show up, who stay. Mama Margaret, Nicole says softly, Terrence and I have been talking. We want to ask you something. What's that? We're going to start trying for a baby soon, she says, glancing at Terrence, who nods encouragingly. And when we have children, we'd like them to call you Grandma or Grammy or whatever you'd prefer. But we want you to be a real present grandmother in their lives, not just holidays and birthdays. We want you to be part of their everyday. We're going to be looking for a house nearby, Terrence adds, something within 10 minutes of here, so the kids can come see you all the time, so you can teach them to garden, to cook, to understand where they came from. I'm crying again. Seems like that's all I do lately at happy moments. I would love that, I managed to say. I would love that more than anything. Then it's settled, Nicole says, taking my hand. You're stuck with us. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. 1 year later. I'm in my garden on a warm spring morning showing my grandson, yes, grandson, born 3 months ago, the roses. He's too young to understand, just a tiny bundle in my arms, but I talk to him anyway. These are the roses your daddy helped me plant, I tell little Marcus. They named him after Terrence's middle name, which I gave him when I adopted him. See the red ones? Those are for love. The pink ones are for gratitude. The yellow ones are for friendship. And the white ones? Those are for new beginnings. Baby Marcus yawns and reaves a tiny fist. You're going to grow up here, I tell him. In this garden, in this house. You're going to know that you're loved, not because you have to earn it, but because you exist. You're going to know your daddy's story. You're going to know that family is about choice and love and loyalty. Terrence and Nicole come out to find us. They moved into a house just 8 minutes away, and they're here almost every day, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just to sit in the garden, sometimes so Nicole and I can work on our vegetable patch, while Terrence holds the baby and tells him stories about growing up on a farm in Macon. There's my mom, Terrence says, grinning, corrupting my son with her gardening wisdom. Someone has to teach him the important things in life, I say, handing the baby to Nicole so she can nurse him. We sit together in the morning sunshine, and I look around at what my life has become. This beautiful house, this beautiful garden, this beautiful family that I chose and that chose me back. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. Mama, it's Patricia. I saw the photos on Facebook of the baby. Congratulations to Terrence and Nicole. He is beautiful. I'm still making my payments every month. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. I hope you're well. I show the text to Terrence. Do you want to respond? He asks carefully. I think about it for a moment. Then I type back, thank you. I hope you're well too. It's not forgiveness exactly. It's not reconciliation. It's just acknowledgement. A small opening in a door that's been closed for a long time. Maybe someday we'll walk through it. Maybe we won't. But for now, it's enough. I put my phone away and turn back to my family. What should we do today? Nicole asks. I was thinking we could work on the vegetable garden. Get some seeds in the ground for summer harvest. Perfect, Terrence says. Marcus here can supervise. The baby makes a noise that sounds suspiciously like agreement, and we all laugh. We spend the morning in the dirt, our hands covered in soil, the sun warm on our backs. Nicole and I plant tomatoes while Terrence holds the baby and makes a list of everything we're planting so he can help me maintain it when Nicole goes back to work. At one point, Nicole sits back on her heels and looks around. This is happiness, she says simply, right here, this moment. Yes, I agree. This is happiness. That night, after they've gone home and I'm alone in my quiet house, I walk through the rooms that used to belong to someone else. I look at the photos on the walls, photos of Terrence growing up, photos of the wedding, photos of baby Marcus, photos of the family I chose and who chose me back. I think about the fire that destroyed my farm. At the time, it felt like the end of everything, like I'd lost it all. Now I understand it was just the beginning. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who really matters. Sometimes you have to stand in the rain, rejected and alone, to discover who will come for you when you call. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you're meant to have. And sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about romance. They're about a woman who opened her door to a scared little boy and a man who never forgot the woman who saved him. I am Margaret Washington. I am 64 years old. I am a mother, a grandmother, and a survivor. And I am finally, completely, perfectly home. The end. So tell me, where are you reading this from? Drop your city in the comments below. Let's see how far this story of redemption, justice, and chosen family has traveled across this country. From Atlanta, Georgia to wherever you are, thank you for being part of this journey.